And I'm telling you right now that those people, you guys, the content creators that connect with people are the ones that are going to win. Some people think, well, it won't work for my industry. Really? It'll work for any industry. Trust me. The majority of the time when we're looking to fix something, repair something, or learn something, where do we go? YouTube. We don't even want to read anymore. We go to YouTube. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
When you're doing your thing, beautiful things begin to happen. It's like the law of attraction kicks in. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're in line with the universe. Everything works. And when you do your thing, everybody gets an automatic MBA, which stands for what? Mega Bank Account Money. Are you with me? So we don't want to do a thing. We want to do a what? Beautiful.
All right, put it all together for Victor Antonio. Here we go.
All right, there we go. I'm not here to mess around. You ready to learn? Yes or no?
That's how it works in today's market. Whether it's B2B or B2C, you see this similar pattern. How do you just, in other words, say you've got to start doing these things, pushing them, but also encouraging them. Oh, look at this. This is where it gets, dude, this is like so interactive with audiences, man. Can you imagine this with your customers? Check this out. Now, what does all this have to do with selling? It has everything to do with selling.
All right, how you guys doing this morning here in the U.S. and international, who I'm doing this for? Probably good evening. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm going to spend about 15 minutes with you today, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I want to talk about, that word, trust. I hear that a lot, right? Like, how would you define trust in a relationship? When it comes to selling or in a meeting or doing a presentation, let me ask you something. Just type it down in there somewhere. How do you describe trust? Go ahead. Take a moment to do that. How would you describe trust? Because I'm always fascinated by the different definitions I get. So go ahead, type in, what would you call it? What do you say trust is? And then how would you build trust? But just give me the definition of trust. So what I want to do today is, I want to give you something concrete. Because sometimes when we, write the word trust, it means getting to know somebody, really listening, really connecting with them. And those are great. These are beautiful words, but they're not tangible. In other words, you can't apply them. They're not tactical. So I want to give you the tactical version of trust, okay? And this works whether you're doing a presentation, right? Or within a meeting or even one-on-one. So again, the scenario could be that you're trying to sell a product or convince somebody to do something, maybe give you more money for a project, right? So here's the word trust, right? I believe trust has three components, just three components. Now, let's break it down. The first component of trust is simply your ability to take the customer's point of view. In other words, take their point of view, understand what they're going through. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, the first one is you got to ask questions, right? Easy. Now, I say this all the time, that the average salesperson practices what to say. The best salespeople, the superior salespeople, practice what to ask. It is the quality of the question that will determine how people perceive you. But just because I ask great questions, which you should, you also have to do the second part, which is recognize what you heard. In other words, if you're asking questions, there's going to come a point after so many questions, you want to almost summarize what you've heard, right? Mr. Customer, Mr. Client, based on what you've said so far, this is what I heard. ... And even after you heard that, so you asked the right questions, here's what I've heard, right? And then you almost have to pivot to what they want. And that's the what piece here, right? What? In other words, I asked great questions. Let me go full screen so you can see it right there. I asked great questions, right? Then here's what I heard. And then the what part is, here's what you're telling me you're looking for. Here's what you want to do. It's almost like you're coming in for a landing. I asked great questions. Here's what I heard. And I land by saying, here's what you want to do. Bam. The beginning of tactical trust. Then we pivot to the second part of trust. And the second part of trust is SME, I called it. You have to position yourself as a subject matter expert. In other words, people need to know that you know your business, you know your product, you know your service, you know the market, you know the industry, you know the trends that are happening in their vertical. That's what they want to know. Even if it's a simple residential sale, let's say you sell roofing, right? What the customer wants to know is that you understand not only their house, but the different type of roofing options available to them. Now, as a subject matter expert, again, one of the first things you have to do is ask great questions. And if you ask great questions, again, what you're doing is by the quality of the questions, you're transmitting what you know. Let me say this again because this is important. The quality of the questions, it's not just a question, it's transmitting what you already know. The deeper the question, right, the more sophisticated the question, the more the customer goes, I didn't know that. Which brings us, you know you have a good question when it's very insightful, right? Now, if you've watched my presentations, you know I define insight as information beyond the obvious. Let me say that again. Customers don't want information. They want insight, which is information beyond the obvious. When you're talking to a client or a customer and you tell them something, they go, I didn't know that. Never looked at it that way. Never thought about that. That is when you're positioning yourself as a subject matter expert. Keep in mind, depending on whose study you believe, customers in their buying journey some are 70, 80, some are even 90% into the buying journey, which means they've pretty much learned a lot along that buying journey. Their preferences have been formed, so they know a lot. So if you tell people what they already know because they've done the research, you're not positioning yourself as a subject matter expert. So your job is to ask those questions and also provide insight. That's the 1-2 punch. Great questions that they never even thought about, because sometimes they don't even understand their needs, right? There's sometimes unstated needs that they've never talked about or even thought about. Then you come in with insight. Here are some options. And they go, didn't know that. Didn't know you can do that. Really, that's not what we're doing currently right now. That's when you position yourself as a subject matter expert. Now let's walk through this slowly so far. If I understand my customer, this is full empathy right here, right? I understand the customer. I asked a question. Here's what I heard. Here's what I know you want or think you want. I move towards now, let's say the presentation piece, right? This is right here is where you position yourself again as a subject matter expert. This is where you're asking those questions that really transmit to the customer that you know what you're talking about, and also you're providing insight in those responses, things they don't know or didn't understand or didn't know they needed. Now, as you're moving through your presentation or conversation, then you get to the third part. And this right here, I came up with this acronym called BIIM. You have to have the customer's best interest in mind. You have to have the customer's best interest in mind. In fact, that shouldn't be a circle. That should be more like a heart, if you think about it. Because if you really love your customers, if you really want to help them, at the end of the day, you have to have their best interest in mind. What does that mean? Too often when we're trying to sell something, we're more concerned about what we want to sell than what they actually need. I am saying to you, to build trust, you can listen to them, position yourself, but at the end, you have to keep their best interest in mind. What does that mean? In other words, one, I'm going to offer my customer options. So for example, if someone tells me their budget is $50,000, I'm going to give them something in the $50,000 range. I'll probably give them something above the $50,000 range. And if you read my book, Mastering the Upsell, give them something right below the $50,000. By the way, I call this downselling, right? Downselling. And by the way, I shouldn't say I call it downselling. Everybody calls it downselling. But let me slow down here. At the beginning, you've listened to them. Right here, right? Then you've positioned yourself as a subject matter expert. They're like, he knows, she knows. This person knows what they're talking about, right? As I move in towards close, the proposal phase, what I want to do is offer them options. I know their budget's $50,000. If you're large B2B, $500,000. Take a pick, right? But let's say it's $50,000. If I listen to them and I know what's best for them because I'm the expert, then I'm going to offer them 3 options. 50,000, one above 50, and then one below 50, right? Now think about what happens psychologically. When you offer somebody a proposal, and it includes something that's within their budget, numbers above, but it also includes something that's below what you stated, that right there really resonates with the client. In other words, they realize you're not trying to put your hand in their pocket. You actually found a cheaper option. And when you find that cheaper option, what you're going to find is one of 2 things. Customers may buy it, but they still probably go back to the 50,000. Studies have shown that even if you offer somebody a cheaper option, they typically go back to their budget, the middle or higher priced option. But the psychological effect of downselling is that it builds trust automatically. So here it is, very simple. If I can understand the customers through the quality of questions I ask, basically summarize what I've heard, and now try to understand and articulate what they want, I move into my presentation, and again, the quality of my questions and the quality of my content will determine how the audience, the individual, will perceive me. And then, as I move into the close, remember, you got to keep the customer's best interest in mind. You're looking out for them. So in other words, a lot of people, when I mention the word selling, they're like, oh, Victor, I hate the word selling. I don't like selling. That's because in their mind, they have this antiquated archetype version of what salespeople are. And that is high-pressure salespeople. No, it isn't. You don't have to be high pressure to be a great salesperson. You just have to keep the customer's best interest in mind. If I understand them and I understand my business, I'm going to offer them something that I know fits their needs, their budgets, and their situation. And if I can do that, I'll be more effective. And again, when you get here and you present the options, remember, you got to ask for the order, the call to action, right? I'm often asked, Victor, well, how do you close the sale, right? Like, how do you ask for the order? I remind people, you don't have to memorize 101 strategies on how to close a deal. You don't have to do that. I only have one. Here's my close. I'll share it with you. I often ask people, based on the options I've given you, is there any reason we shouldn't get started? That's it. That's my close. That's the Victor Antonio close, right? And that's all. It's not pressure. It's just putting it there. So in sum, if you want to build trust in a meeting, in a presentation, even one-on-one, remember, let's slow down at the beginning to really understand the customers. Ask great questions, listen, let them know what you've heard, and then tell them what you think they're looking for. Position yourself as a subject matter expert, quality of the questions, and the quality of the content you deliver. Last but not least, remember, keep the best interest in mind. Offer them options, and then also look at the way you price them, and never be afraid to ask for the order. You'd be amazed at how many people simply don't ask for the order. And that is it for this Sales After Dark episode. Just want to do a short stint on this one because I keep hearing trust, but nobody's ever really defined a tactical version of trust. So hopefully this is helpful. By the way, if you have any feedback, hit me on the chat here. If not, I'll sign off in a bit. I want to keep these short, by the way, like 15 minutes. Michael Kim Welch, love it, man. Or is it Welsh? One of the two, right? Great sales perspective. Thank you very much. Doug Lehman's in the house. Trust in layman's term. Let's break it down. Always breaking it down in layman terms. Hecka. Trust is feeling that you can have friendly conversation and be truthful to a person. I agree with that, by the way. I think, I think that goes back to this, right? If you always have their best interest in mind and you transmit that in your conversation, how you present, how you share information, they will feel that. So I'm with you 100%. Glenn P. says, thanks, Victor. Great content. You guys are awesome. I'll also be doing this one in the evening here in the U.S. I want to do this 8 a.m. Version of Sales After Dark because some of you are going, Victor, it's morning. It's not after dark. But it's After Dark International. So the morning program here in the U.S. will be for the international people. I'll be doing this again at 8 p.m. for my U.S. friends here. Let me see. Niger Kasimova. Did I get that one? Thank you. Thank you. Michael Kim says, selling ain't hard when you know how. My man, way to go. All right, that is all I have today. Thank you for joining me. Share the link. We'll see you probably on Sunday. I'm going to try to do these on Wednesday and then I'm going to shoot for Sunday, those 2 days. So again, thank you for showing up, and as you know, celebrate hard when you know how. Take care. Bye-bye.